I couldn't move a finger, but when my daughter leaned in and whispered, "Pull his plug, he's worth 25," my heartbeat did the talking. The ventilator answered for me with a long, thin sigh. The ICU at Houston Methodist hummed like a machine shop after hours. Monitors chirping, someone cracking a coffee lid, rubber soles whispering along waxed floors. Marcus, her boyfriend, breathed close enough for me to smell the mint on his gum. "An hour later, papers vanish," he said, like it was already done. "Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you're listening from." Sunday night, October 5th. The wall clock over my bed threw a pale circle on the ceiling. I drifted in the space between sleep and a fall, between my ladder in the garage and the hard floor that met me on Friday, October 3rd. I was alive, intubated, but alive. I tested what I had left. Eyes. One blink for yes, two for no. It wasn't strength. It was a carpenter's pencil mark, thin, precise and permanent. Nurse Val Ortiz noticed first. "Mr. Hale, if you can hear me, blink once." I put everything I had into a single, deliberate close and open. She leaned in, a small gold cross at her neck, catching the fluorescent light, and whispered, "Good. We'll go slow." She asked my name. I blinked once. The year, one blink. "Is Emma your daughter?" One blink. The chart rustled as she wrote the time, 10:47 p.m., and circled it. Calm, steady hands, the kind you want when a blade bites into oak and the wood wants to split. Emma thought I couldn't hear. She was wrong. She had been at the nurse's station earlier, asking casual questions that only sounded innocent if you didn't know the language. Ventilator criteria, DNR codes, comfort measures. Val had logged that too. Nurses record what people really say at the edges of grief. I listened breath by breath to the daughter I raised on job site breakfasts and Saturday bike rides circle my bed like a vulture who knew the wind. The law loves posted notice and clean lines. Texas is a one-party consent state, and the hospital's sign by the curtain made it plain. For safety and training, audio may be recorded. Val set a small recorder on the tray beside the hand sanitizer, then stepped away to chart visitors. Emma at 10:15 p.m., Marcus at 10:31. I couldn't lift a hand, but I could count. And I did. Counted the seconds between their words and the sigh of the machine that kept me breathing. Fragments of my life floated back with the beep of the pulse ox. The March 14 advance directive I signed at St. Luke's, the one that said 2 independent physicians must agree before anything is withdrawn. The April 2nd Living Trust Daniel Price drafted, the one that put my $25 million in a structure stronger than any steel beam I ever ordered. The photo I took of my safe deposit key in a brown leather valet tray, March 28th, 8:12 a.m. Because habit taught me proof outlives memory. "Pull his plug," Emma said again, softer like a prayer for a god I didn't recognize. Marcus replied, "We'll be on the lake by Christmas." The Lake Conroe house was my retirement, cedar and stone, that smelled like clean rain even in August. Hearing it sold with my breath still borrowed lit something raw and old inside me. The stubborn heat that kept me on ladders at 68 when everyone said, "Hire it out." I blinked once. Danger. And Val read it. She slid her hand to mine and spoke, so only I could hear, "I've got you, Mr. Hale." In her chart she drew a box around the words, "responsive by blink code." In my head, I drew a box around Emma's whisper. The monitor ticked up when they moved closer. "He can't hear us," Emma said. The ventilator answered for me. My body was a job site after a storm, debris everywhere, but the foundation held. I counted another breath and laid the first line of my plan across the grain. Monday morning came like a thin blade through the blinds, slicing the ICU into neat stripes of light and shadow. I lay there under it, a body-shaped outline in a bed that smelled faintly of bleach and plastic, listening to the machine breathe for me while my mind tried to crawl backward through Friday, through the ladder in the garage, through the hard floor that had slapped the air out of my chest. The night before, I heard my daughter say the words no father should ever hear. Now the room was quieter, but those words were louder. Pull his plug. He's worth 25. You don't mishear a number when the number is your life's work. An orderly nudged in a metal tray and clipped a bill to it. The paper stiff as drywall, pharmacy charges. Until 60 through October 5, printed in a font I've used on 100 purchase orders. It's funny the things that steady you. That bill grounded me more than the oxygen did, because it was the world I understood. Numbers, dates, the small, cruel math of being alive. I fixed the total in my head like a nail driven home, 1,860. If I could hold that, I could hold the rest. I'd once paid an 18,740 bursar statement so Emma could finish her last semester on time. I remember writing the check at our kitchen counter, the granite cool under my forearm, her thank you card slipping under my coffee mug the next morning. "You're my hero, Dad," in careful cursive. If love had a ledger, mine was full of notes like that. Halloween costumes stapled in the garage. The pink bike with white streamers we built together for $129 plus tax. The week I took off when her mother started chemo. Every receipt was my pension plan for peace. Now, in this sterile morning, I measured my breathing against the tick of a clock and felt that ledger catch fire. Val came on shift with her hair pulled into a loop and the same small gold cross at her throat. "Good morning, Mr. Hale." She said it like she meant it, even in a room that didn't believe in mornings. She checked the line at my wrist, the tape at my neck, then leaned close so I could see her eyes. 1 blink for yes, 2 for no. Ready? 1 blink. "Do you want me to call Pastor Lewis?" 1 blink. All right. It was 9:20 when he arrived, a little out of breath and carrying a spiral notebook with a coffee ring on the cover. "Rob," he said, taking the chair by my bed, "you look like trouble. If you've never tried to laugh with a tube in your throat, don't." I blinked once. He read Psalm 23 quietly, but I heard a different verse threaded through it. "I shall fear no evil, for my advance directive says 2 independent physicians must agree." March 14th, St. Luke's. I could see the line where my pen lifted on the H in Hale. The way my surgeon's hands, builder's hands, could make letters look steady no matter how I shook inside. After he left, the room dropped into that afternoon. Silence hospitals keep like a secret. The air handler whispered. A cart squeaked somewhere. I let the grief come without fighting it. Not the cinematic kind. The private kind that starts in your chest and pours into your eyes until the bed feels like a boat you might wash off. My daughter had stood right where the morning light cut across the floor and measured me like a balance sheet. It wasn't the number that hurt most. It was the phrase, "He can't hear us," said like I was already a framed photo on a hallway table. Memory is a carpenter, always looking for something square to measure against. Mine found Saturday, October 4th, the day Emma claimed to have had my new medical. Power of attorney notarized at 2:15 p.m. I was intubated by then. Sedated. The word notarized slid through my head like a warped board you can't make true. You can't sign a straight line with a tube in your throat and a brain full of fog. You can't present an ID when your wallet is in a plastic bag with your watch and your belt. The nurse chart said Emma left the floor at 2:03 p.m. Hospital badge logs don't get sentimental. They print time the way a saw cuts wood, exact and no going back. If her notarization was across town at 2:15, time itself would have had to stretch to make the cut. Time doesn't stretch. It snaps. She came back around 5 with a folder too crisp for grief. The tab was bright and new. There's a way paper looks when it hasn't lived anywhere yet. "I have Dad's updated POA," she told the charge nurse, pitching her voice for the desk, not for me. "Notarized yesterday." The nurse, whose name tag read Alvarez, did that neutral smile they teach. Safe enough to skate on, strong enough not to crack. "We'll add it to the chart," she said, and she wrote the name on the notary stamp, where it bled a little into the paper. G. Morales. Val stepped beside her and, with a glance to me, copied the name into her own notes and circled it. She knows the difference between information and a thread. One you file, the other you pull. The thing about a collapse is you don't always feel the floor go. Sometimes you notice your hands first, the way they grip at nothing, rehearse old movements that would save you if they could. My hands flexed against sheets when I thought about Emma's voice. An hour later, papers vanish. Papers don't vanish in my world. They go in a lockbox. They go in a safe deposit drawer, whose key I photographed on March 28th at 8:12 a.m., because memory is faithful and fallible. And proof is how you sleep. I blinked once. Danger, and Val stepped to the bedside. Do you want me to get the patient advocate? One blink. Do you want me to call Daniel Price? One blink. Okay. She smoothed the sheet like a mother does and set a pen on my tray beside the recorder. I couldn't hold it, but I could see it. It lay there like a promise. I watched the ink catch the light and followed the glint to the edge of the folder in Emma's hands, where a pale carbon copy peeped out like a tongue. Not a scan, not a digital. Old school, because frauds like the chew of paper and the way a stamp feels inevitable pressed into the corner. Between blinks, I walked old job sites in my mind. How many times had a man told me, "Boss, this wall is straight," and I set my level on it and watched the bubble whisper another story. Measure twice, cut once. It's not just wood. It's people. It's promises. It's a daughter's word against the thin film of a recorder and the thick ink of a notary's stamp. And somewhere inside what used to be my chest, something hard cooled. I grieved. Then the grief narrowed to a line as straight as a chalk snap. In the late afternoon, the sun slipped off the blinds and the room shifted from white to grey. Val came back with a laminated card, patient advocate, clipped to her pocket, and a hospital tablet balanced on her arm. "We can restrict decision-makers pending review," she murmured, "if you want." I blinked once. She nodded, tapping the form with a thumbnail. "We'll start the process." The card's plastic edge clicked against the tablet, one small, clean sound in a day full of soft ones. When she set the pen down again, this time she placed a small legal pad beside it. In the top right corner, she'd written my name, Robert Hale, in block letters, and underlined it twice. I stared at the pad and thought about lumber. You never cut expensive wood until you've mapped every measurement, found every stud, checked every square. What Emma had done in the shadow of the ventilator was ugly, and it broke something I can't fix with planes and glue. But the house of my life still had its frame. The advance directive was my ridge beam. The trust was my joist. The nurse's notes, the badge logs, the little recorder by the sanitizer, those were my nails. It was all still there, if I could keep breathing long enough to build with it. The day ended with the same machine sighing for me, but my breath belonged to me again. Emma's folder sat on a chair, like a guest who wouldn't leave. I looked at the legal pad and imagined the first line I would write, "Measure twice." Then I closed my eyes and made a single mark no one could see but me, one deliberate, unbroken blink that said, "Cut." Tuesday, October 7th, the kind of morning where Houston pretends it's autumn, sky thin as smoke, air cool enough to make you believe in new beginnings. I lay in that humming ICU, listening to my ventilator's rhythm, waiting for my plan to take shape. Revenge doesn't come in rage. It comes in paperwork, signatures, and dates that don't add up. Val arrived a little after 8 a.m., coffee in one hand, hospital tablet in the other. "Good morning, Mr. Hale," she said softly, setting her things down like she was laying tools on a workbench. "We can restrict decision-makers until the hospital completes a competency review." "Do you want to?" I blinked once. "Yes." She nodded. "Good. Let's start small, lawful, quiet." She showed me the patient advocate card, plastic edge worn smooth, and slipped a form beneath it. "This just says no new decisions until an evaluation. Gives you breathing room." She smiled faintly at her own pun. Using the hospital tablet, she opened the blink-to-text app. It was slow, painfully slow, but it worked. I spelled out my first word since the fall, ROBHALE, ALIVE, COMPETENT, POAFORGED, CALLDANIELPRICE. She read it twice, nodded, and made the call. Daniel picked up on the second ring. "Val, is he responsive?" He is, Mr. Price. Blink to text. He says the POA might be forged. Daniel exhaled. Understood. Hold tight. I'll file for an emergency guardianship review today. By 10:42 a.m., Val was reading his text reply aloud from my phone. Filing in Harris County. Keep record of everything. Time, visitors, questions asked. That was the moment I realized I wasn't powerless. I was a builder again, sketching a plan, one document at a time. We looped in Carla Nguyen, the private investigator Daniel trusted most. I'd met her years ago at a Chamber of Commerce luncheon when I was still signing seven-figure contracts. Carla had a memory like ledger paper, straight lines, no smudges. Mr. Hale, she said through the speaker, her voice low and measured. We'll start with the basics. Hospital badge logs, notary journal, bank transactions. Anything you signed, we verify. I blinked once for yes. Val jotted the to-do list in the margin of her nurse's chart like a secret blueprint. The badge logs, Oct 326, notary journal, Oct 4, bank alerts, large transfers flagged. I couldn't speak, but I didn't need to. My iPhone was still logged into my accounts. Val opened my email with the passcode Emma already knew. Ironic how the same number that betrayed me now served as my weapon. 2 transfers stood out, each marked large amount. Review required $300,000 on Monday. Oct 6 at 6:14 p.m. $180,000 this morning. Oct 7 at 9:05 a.m. Recipient Reed Capital Ventures LLC, Marcus Reed's company. The blood monitor beeped faster. Val touched my wrist. Steady, Mr. Hale. We'll get it all documented. I blinked twice. Freeze accounts, she called Daniel again. He wants to authorize a freeze under the Living Trust Clause. Section 9.1, Daniel said instantly. I drafted it. 2 trustees can act if primary is incapacitated. By noon, he had filed the request. The trap was building itself now, nails driven by law, not anger. At 3 p.m., I heard Emma's voice at the nurse's desk, casual and rehearsed. I just want to understand ventilator criteria, she said. When do they call it futile? That word, futile, snapped something inside me. I blinked to Val, record date, time, she nodded. In her notes she wrote, Emma Hale, 3:07 p.m., asks about ventilator criteria. Used phrase comfort measures only. At 6:20 p.m., Daniel's email came through. Val read it out loud while adjusting my IV. Found your advance directive March 14th, St. Luke's. Clear condition. No withdrawal unless 2 physicians declare permanent vegetative state. Your current chart, responsive via blink code. She has no legal standing. The proof was there, ink, dates, signatures. The same tools that built my company would now save my life. That evening, Val slipped a new legal pad into my drawer, the yellow kind with wide blue lines. Start writing your life back, Mr. Hale, she whispered. One blink at a time, and I did. Between the hiss of oxygen and the steady rhythm of machines, I made the first entry in my new ledger. October 7th, began reconstruction. I was still nailed to a bed, but I wasn't buried. Wednesday, October 8th. The ICU lights hummed like overworked transformers, turning night into a sterile grey morning. By then, I'd learned to use every breath, every blink as a tool. If my body couldn't move, my mind would build. Daniel called it structural thinking, but for me, it was muscle memory. Measure twice, cut once. Val came in early, her shoes whispering across the tile. She smiled and said, Morning, Mr. Hale. Daniel filed that ex parte motion. It's on the docket. Then she glanced toward the door. And Carla's on her way. At 9:32 a.m., Carla appeared, crisp navy blazer, black messenger bag, the smell of cold coffee and determination following her. Morning, Rob, she said as if I wasn't surrounded by tubes. Let's get to work. She laid out her small portable printer, a stack of papers, and a flash drive. Reed Capital Ventures LLC, she began. Formed last year. No audited statements. Registered agent, P.O. Box on West Alabama Street. Her voice was steady, but her eyes flicked up at the monitors like she was checking the pulse of the truth itself. Then she printed something that made my heart kick against the ventilator rhythm. An MLS draft listing agreement for my Lake Conroe house. Dated October 7th. Commission 6%. List price $2.8 million. And right there, seller Robert Hale, by agent in fact Emma Hale. The machine beside me beeped faster. Val muted it quietly and whispered, "Easy now." I didn't need to blink to show rage. It was in the way my breath hitched, the way my pulse line jumped. That house wasn't just property. It was my retirement, my refuge. The home I built plank by plank after Margaret died. Every beam had her handprint in it, every tile chosen from catalogues we flipped through on sleepless nights. Daniel's voice came through the speakerphone, calm but firm. "Carla, pull the notary's ledger. We'll need Morales' entry from October 4th. 2 hours later, she had it. A photograph filled Val's tablet screen. There it was. Page 94, entry for R. Hale, neat black ink, signature steady, too steady for a man who'd been intubated. The ID number listed was my expired passport. Carla zoomed in. "See this?" Entries before and after in blue ink. Only his in black. She flipped another page. Notary Journal says 2:15 p.m. Saturday. Badge log shows Emma leaving hospital at 2:03. Daniel's low chuckle crackled through the phone. "We've got time, fraud. That's felony territory if they push it." I blinked once. "Yes. Push it." "Understood," he said. "Activating Section 9.1, red line clause, freezing brokerage accounts, revoking cards, halting all automatic transfers. By late afternoon, the machine above me pinged. Attempted wire $120,000 blocked. Emma stormed in an hour later, her perfume slicing through antiseptic air. "What did you do?" she hissed, yanking at her phone. "They froze something." She called Marcus on speaker. His voice was tight, irritated. "Relax. The judge will rubber stamp everything. He's as good as gone." Val was 3 feet away. Pretending to adjust an IV, she charted quietly while I listened to the sound of my own daughter. Conspiring against me, I counted their words. Against the ventilator's steady hiss, 5 seconds between betrayal and breath after they left. The room fell back into its machine rhythm. The monitors blinked green. The clock ticked past 7. Val stood by the door. "You did good today," she said softly. "Now the law's working for you." I wanted to tell her I wasn't done. I blinked once, slow, deliberate. She smiled knowingly. "One cut at a time, huh?" "Yes, one clean cut. I wasn't the helpless old man they thought I was. I was a builder reclaiming his blueprints, one legal nail at a time. Thursday, October 9th, the kind of day that pretends to be ordinary, though everyone in that ICU could feel a storm tightening above it. I woke to the sound of paper sliding into a file folder, soft, careful, final. Emma's voice came next, sharp but low. "Make sure it's ready before the hearing," she said to someone on the phone. She didn't notice I was awake. She never thought I would be again. When Val stepped in, Emma slipped the folder under her coat like a thief with her own reflection. Val met my eyes. I blinked twice. "Danger confirmed," she whispered. "Daniel got the motion filed. You're protected for now." Then quieter still, "She's bringing a new lawyer." At 10 a.m. he arrived, young, polished, carrying a silver tie clip that gleamed like arrogance. He smelled like cologne and certainty. "We're here to ensure Mr. Hale's wishes are honored," he told the charge nurse, brandishing the October 4th power of attorney like a holy relic. The nurse nodded politely. "Competency reviews pending," she said. "Advance directive still controls." The lawyer smiled, thin and theatrical. "Of course. But my client believes her father wanted peace." I blinked once, hard. Val caught it. "No," she said softly, voice clear enough for the lawyer to hear. "His chart says responsive." That broke his smile. They left a few minutes later, the silver tie glinting as the door closed behind them. Val came to my side. "That was a test run," she murmured. "They're seeing how far they can push before the hearing." I blinked once. We both knew the answer, all the way to the grave if I didn't stop them. That afternoon, Pastor Lewis came by again. He held my hand, said a prayer, and then added, "You've built too much to let it fall now." I blinked once in agreement. By 2:10 p.m., the hallway outside filled with voices, Emma and Marcus arguing in stage whispers. "Once the lake house is listed," Emma hissed, "we're clear of the $480,000. Val was near the doorway, pretending to adjust the blinds, her pen already moving over her chart. "Due 10 p.m., Heard conversation with Lake House sale. Amount mentioned 480K. The air felt heavier. I could almost taste the betrayal. Every number, every document, every whispered phrase was now a nail in their own coffin, and I was quietly collecting them all. That night, Daniel's email came through. Emergency hearing set for Thursday. 16:09 a.m. Val read it out loud while straightening my blanket. 1 week, Mr. Hale. We just need to hold the line until then. I blinked once. Yes, 1 week. 7 days to finish the frame before the inspection. When the hallway lights dimmed, the room turned into a sea of shadows and steady hums. I stared at the clock, 11:47 p.m., and blinked slowly, spelling a message for Val when she returned. PLANB. She raised an eyebrow. Plan B? I blinked once. What's that? She waited, and I spelled again through the tablet. LETTERTOEMMA. TRUTH. She nodded slowly. You want to give her a chance to confess? Yes. By midnight, she had printed the letter I dictated blink by blink. A short message, no anger, just the facts. I told Emma I knew about the forgery, the wires, the whispers. I asked her to do what was right before the court did it for her. Val sealed it in an envelope and wrote her neat nurse's script across the front. To Emma Hale, from Dad. She placed it on the tray beside me. The white paper glowed faintly in the dim light. Ready for me to deliver it tomorrow? She asked. I blinked once, slow and sure. The monitors kept their rhythm, counting my breaths like heartbeats of a builder marking time before the pour. The envelope sat there like a loaded beam, waiting for morning, waiting for the weight that would test it. The countdown had begun. Friday, October 10th. Hospitals have their own weather. Cold at dawn, tense by noon, silent at midnight. That morning, mine carried a pulse of purpose. The letter to Emma sat sealed on my tray like a test of faith. I told her to come clean before the court forced her to. Whether she'd read it or rip it apart, I didn't yet know. Carla arrived just after sunrise, heels clicking sharp against the tile. Good morning, Mr. Hale, she said, setting her laptop on the counter. I did some digging. Val glanced over her shoulder. And? Carla exhaled. Reed Capital Ventures, the company Marcus registered, defaulted on a PPP-style loan 6 months ago. The amount? Around $500,000. He's already under soft investigation for deceptive filings. That $500,000. My $480,000, my trust. My life's work. Carla pulled out a printed screenshot. Marcus on a rented yacht in Kema. Sunglasses gleaming, captioned 25 meters in the wind. Timestamp Sunday, October 5th, 11:12 p.m. Barely an hour after I'd heard him whisper over my bed. Val murmured, "He's celebrating your funeral early." Daniel's voice came through the phone speaker, measured and cool. "We won't use that image unless they open the door first," he said. "But it's leverage." "You've got more witnesses than you think." By afternoon, Emma's new attorney filed another motion, one that nearly stopped my heart. Petition for removal of life support, best interest determination. Val's pen froze mid-note. The charge nurse, Alvarez, replied evenly. Denied until competency review. But the message was clear. Emma was escalating. Pastor Lewis stopped by around 4 p.m., the sealed envelope in his hand. "She's in the hallway," he whispered. "Do you still want me to give it to her?" I blinked once. Yes. He nodded, walked out, and I listened to the slow squeak of his shoes down the corridor. Through the glass I saw her silhouette near the elevator, arms folded, phone in hand. He handed her the letter. She read the first lines, jaw tightening, then crumpled it like trash. Her voice rose, echoing faintly through the door. "He always controlled me." The sound hit harder than any fall. I wasn't angry, just hollow. My daughter wasn't drowning in greed. She was swimming in it. Hours later, Carla returned with fresh intel, a risk management email from hospital administration. A staffer reported Marcus offered a donation for faster paperwork, she read. "They've forwarded it to compliance." Daniel's reply came seconds later. "That's a third-party witness. It seals our pattern. Intent, opportunity, benefit." By midnight, Val dimmed the lights. "Mr. Hale," she whispered, "the truth is piling up on our side." I blinked twice. Our code for build higher. The monitors clicked and hummed. And outside my window, Houston's skyline shimmered like a row of nails, catching the last light. At 11:56 p.m., Emma signed a new listing pre-agreement by phone. Carla showed me the screenshot. Metadata confirmed it. October 10th, 11:56 p.m. She hadn't stopped. She was still selling my life one brick at a time. I couldn't move, but I didn't need to. Every word, every email, every forged timestamp was weight for the beam I was setting across her lies. The set piece was built. All that remained was to let gravity do its work, and gravity, like justice, always arrives on time. Thursday had been the countdown. Friday, October 16th was the detonation. The day of the hearing began before sunrise. The ICU bathed in blue light from monitors and distant hallway bulbs. Val checked my vitals, smiled and said, "You ready to go, Mr. Hale?" I blinked once. By 7:30 a.m., orderlies rolled my bed out through the automatic doors. The wheels rattled over the elevator seam, like the sound of a hammer tapping a nail flush. Outside, Houston air met me warm and metallic, the first air I'd felt in 13 days. The ambulance ride to the courthouse was quiet except for the hiss of the ventilator. The city blurred past, billboards, cranes, half-finished condos, all bones of a builder's world I'd once ruled. I'd sold Hale Buildco for $25 million. I'd thought it was enough to buy peace. I was wrong. Harris County Civil Courthouse, 9 a.m. They wheeled me in like evidence, the gurney angled so I could see Emma in the second row. Her hair was perfect. Marcus sat beside her, staring at the floor like it owed him something. Judge Ramirez adjusted her glasses. Matter of Hale versus Hale. Petition to suspend power of attorney and enforce existing advance directive. Daniel stood, steady as always. Your Honor, Mr. Hale is competent and responsive by blink code. The October 4th power of attorney was forged while he was sedated. He motioned to the first exhibit. Val stepped forward in her scrubs, hands steady. Exhibit A, Daniel said. Nurse notes and patient advocate memo showing responsiveness beginning October 5th, 10:47 p.m. The judge glanced over her glasses. And Exhibit B? Hospital badge logs, Your Honor, showing Ms. Hale off premises at 2:03 p.m., while the notary entry claims 2:15 p.m. across town. Val passed the copies. The judge frowned, pen tapping her bench. Then came the ledger photo. Exhibit C, Daniel said, sliding it across. Notary page in black ink, while all others are blue. ID listed. Expired passport. My client was intubated, sedated, incapable of signing. Emma's lawyer jumped up. Speculation. Families sign for each other all the time. Ramirez cut him off. Not under oath, Counselor. Daniel's tone stayed calm. Exhibit D, Your Honor, bank alerts for 2 transfers, totaling $480,000 to Reed Capital Ventures LLC, Mr. Reed's company, while my client was incapacitated. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Marcus's jaw tightened. And Exhibit E, Daniel said, an MLS draft listing Mr. Hale's Lake Conroe home, dated October 7th, days before any competency determination. Seller of record. Robert Hale by agent-in-fact Emma Hale. Ramirez leaned back. Ms. Hale, did you authorize this? Emma's voice was brittle. I was following my father's wishes, which were to, she hesitated, to make sure things were handled if he didn't wake up. Daniel waited a beat, then said, he did wake up, and we have proof of what he heard. He nodded to Val, who retrieved a small speaker from her bag. Your Honor, Texas law allows one-party consent recordings, and the hospital has posted notice at every entrance. This was captured October 5th, 10:47 p.m. He pressed play. Emma's voice filled the courtroom, too clear to deny. Pull his plug, he's worth 25. Marcus followed, his tone casual. An hour later, papers vanish, gasps, chairs creaked. The judge's pen stopped tapping. Emma stood. That's out of context! Ramirez raised a hand. Sit down, Ms. Hale. Daniel's final blow was quiet. Exhibit F, Hospital Witness Report. Marcus Reed offering a donation for expedited paperwork. The judge turned toward Marcus. Mr. Reed, do you deny this? He opened his mouth, but no sound came. Daniel's closing was short, sharp, surgical. Your Honor, we have measured twice. It's time to cut once. Suspend the POA, enforce the directive, and protect the trust. The courtroom stilled. Then the gavel came down, a clean crack that echoed through every bone in my chest. Petition granted, Judge Ramirez said. Power of attorney suspended. Injunction on asset transfers. Independent capacity evaluation ordered. Mr. Reed, do not leave the county. Emma turned to me, eyes wide, tears or fury, I couldn't tell which. For the first time since the ladder fall, I inhaled a full breath that belonged to me. They wheeled me out as the courtroom whispered behind us. Outside, the morning sun hit the glass doors, and in that reflection I didn't see a patient anymore. I saw a man rebuilt. Justice had just poured its first foundation, Friday, October 17th. The ICU felt different that morning, lighter, emptier, like the air itself had been scrubbed clean. The court order had landed, and with it a silence only victory can bring. Val wheeled in the breakfast tray and said softly, "You did it, Mr. Hale." For the first time in 2 weeks, I felt my lungs pull a full, unassisted breath. The sound of the ventilator was gone, replaced by a quiet, steady rhythm of my own making. The injunction rippled through Houston before lunch. By 10 a.m., the listing agent withdrew from the Lake Conroe property. By noon, the brokerage reinstated dual signature verification for all trust accounts. Carla texted a single line to Val's phone, all exits sealed. Meanwhile, Marcus's phone was lighting up. Carla's tracker showed him pacing in a strip mall parking lot off Richmond Avenue, talking fast, gesturing wildly. She followed from a distance, camera in hand. "He's shredding something," she muttered over the call, the sound of a diesel engine humming behind her. Her photo hit Daniel's inbox minutes later, boxes labeled RCVQ2, stacked beside a mobile shredding truck. The timestamp, 11:42 a.m. Daniel didn't waste time. "We're sending a preservation letter. If he destroys documents now, that's obstruction." I blinked once. Good. By 1:30 p.m., Emma called Pastor Lewis. Carla had a voice recorder running on speaker for documentation. Emma's voice cracked through static, half sob, half anger. "He humiliated me. In front of everyone." Pastor's voice was steady. "Truth humbles, Emma. It doesn't humiliate." She hung up. Val came in with her tablet showing me Daniel's message. Capacity evaluation scheduled for Monday, October 20th. Independent physicians. Full clearance expected. I blinked once. Relief. The rest of the day unfolded in quiet motions, legal ripples spreading outward. Marcus's accounts were under watch. Emma's lawyer filed to withdraw representation. Even the hospital staff seemed to stand a little taller when they passed my door, whispering, "That's the man who took his daughter to court from ICU." Late afternoon, Val sat by my bedside, flipping through a legal pad where she'd kept her notes. "You know," she said with a smile, "I've never seen someone build a case with nothing but blinks." I wanted to laugh. I blinked once, thank you. That night I dictated my final letter to the trustee, blink by blink, word by word. It wasn't revenge I wanted anymore. It was structure, stability. I wrote, "Set aside education funds for my grandkids. Create a 5-year cooling period for Emma's distributions. Allocate $50,000 to the Texas Senior Legal Advocacy Fund." When Val finished typing, she read it back. "Anything else, Mr. Hale?" I blinked once. Yes, then slowly, "Forgive, but don't forget." She nodded. "And that's a solid foundation." By midnight, I slept for the first time without alarms, IVs, or fear of whispers in the dark. The oxygen in my lungs tasted like freedom, faintly metallic, slightly dry, but mine. In the morning, Carla sent a photo from her car window. Marcus meeting a man in a grey suit outside a diner. The caption read, "Investigator. Case opened." I stared at the photo on Val's tablet, the light catching my reflection in the screen. The old man they'd called useless had turned his own stillness into evidence. As Val turned off the recorder, she smiled. "You don't need this anymore." She was right. For the first time in 2 weeks, I didn't need proof. I had justice breathing beside me. Monday, October 20th. The morning light poured through the blinds like a soft confession. The ICU was quiet, except for the faint hum of air vents and the distant roll of carts. My body felt heavier, realer, as though life had finally settled back into its frame. 2 doctors entered together, Dr. Patel and Dr. Green, the independent evaluators appointed by the court. Their presence carried that mix of formality and caution reserved for legal matters. Val stood beside me, clipboard ready. "Good morning, Mr. Hale," Dr. Patel said kindly. "We're here for your decisional capacity assessment. You ready?" I blinked once. We started simple. "Do you know where you are?" he asked, one blink. "Houston Methodist." "What month is it?" One blink, October. "Who's the current president?" One blink. Got it right. Then came the test that mattered. Movement. "Mr. Hale, if you can, tap your right index finger." The room waited. I focused every ounce of will on that one command. The finger twitched, barely, but it moved. Dr. Green smiled. "That's decisive." At 2:26 p.m., the evaluation ended. Dr. Patel wrote one sentence that changed everything. Decisional capacity present. Val faxed the report straight to Daniel. By 3, Daniel had filed it with Judge Ramirez. The ruling came back fast, faster than I expected. My forged power of attorney invalid. The notary entry referred to the Secretary of State for investigation. All asset sales stayed for 90 days. I'd won not through anger, but through process, the kind that leaves a clean trail even in chaos. Later that evening, Daniel called on speaker. "Rob, we're pressing civil subpoenas for Reed Capital's bank records. Those 2 wire transfers, 300,000 and 180,000, stand out like fireworks." Val laughed softly. "Fireworks or confession?" "Both," Daniel replied. "Marcus is done." Then came a different silence. A softer one. Emma's lawyer had withdrawn. No new counsel appeared. Instead, a short email arrived in Daniel's inbox from Emma's personal account. "I need time. I'll return what I can." I asked Daniel, through Blink Code, to draft something different this time. A restorative agreement. If Emma confessed, returned all benefits, sought counseling, and agreed to a 5-year delay on her trust distribution, I'd withdraw civil claims. "My justice isn't about flames," I blinked out. "It's a fire door." Daniel understood. He said he'd make the offer official by morning. Pastor Lewis visited that night, sitting in the chair beside my bed. The fluorescent light caught the silver in his beard. "You've done what few men can," he said quietly. "You built truth with your own silence." I blinked once. Gratitude. Val removed the last central line, her touch light and sure. The sound of tape peeling away felt like a curtain lifting. The beeps softened, one by one, until the room held only the sound of air. Mine, steady and clean. On the TV, a high school marching band played under Friday night lights. Trumpets, drums, brass glinting gold. I watched them, remembering the old construction sites, the smell of sawdust and sweat, and thought, justice doesn't roar. It exhales. That night, for the first time since October 3rd, I breathed fully. On my own, Tuesday, October 21st, the sun had shifted by the time I came home. Its light fell across the living room in warm slats, catching on framed photos and the faint dust on the mantel. Home didn't smell like hospital air. It smelled like cedar and polish, like Margaret's old candles that still sat untouched on the shelf. They rolled me in on a stretcher first, but by afternoon I insisted on standing. The rails on the stairs gleamed new, installed by Daniel's contractors that morning. "You'll get used to the slow climb," Val said, setting my medications by the bed. "1 step a day, that was fine by me. Builders understand progress measured in inches." By Wednesday, Daniel stopped by with the new safe, biometric lock, dual key access. He set it down beside my desk and wiped his hands. "Code's yours alone. No shared access." "Good," I mouthed slowly. My voice was returning rough as sandpaper. He smiled. "Your house is sealed tighter than your old job sites." Carla's invoice arrived next, emailed and printed both. $2,400, itemized, fair. Surveillance hours, record retrieval, travel logs. I had Val read it line by line, then blinked once. Approve. I'd always believed in paying. People what they've earned. The trustee confirmed the rest by Friday grandkids' college funds funded $50,000. Transferred to the Texas Senior Legal Advocacy Clinic, all distributions to Emma frozen pending mediation. Balanced and final, Daniel said, leaning against the doorframe. You sure you don't want to pursue restitution? I shook my head. She's already paying, I rasped. Different kind of debt. Outside, fall pressed against the windows, gold leaves spinning across the lawn. I spent an hour every morning in physical therapy. Grip, step, balance. Each movement hurt like honesty, but it was clean pain. At night, Pastor Lewis sat in the armchair and read me letters. Warehouse owners, foremen, church families, people I'd built roofs and shelters for over 30 years. Each letter started the same. You built something that still stands, legacy. Not a number in a trust account, not a house by a lake, but the echoes of steady work. One evening, I reached for the carpenter's pencil on my desk. The graphite tip was dull, the wood soft from years of handling. I traced a simple line across the page. No blueprints, no measurements. Just a reminder, even broken beams can hold weight if you reinforce them right. I decided to build again. Not skyscrapers, not warehouses, but a small bookcase for the den. Something to remind me of the work that still made sense. When I sanded the first board, the smell of pine filled the room. For a moment I forgot the tubes, the courtroom, the hospital beeps. For a moment I was just Rob Hale again, hands scarred, mind steady, finding the balance between loss and strength. The house settled quietly on its foundation, like it was breathing too. Friday, October 24th. The morning light was soft and golden, the kind of light Margaret used to call forgiving. It poured through the front windows, warming the dining table where my old leather notebook lay open. The house was quiet, except for the slow tick of the wall clock and the sound of my own breathing, steady, full, and mine. That's when Val brought in the mail. "You've got a letter," she said, setting a white envelope beside my coffee. The handwriting stopped me cold. Emma's, 2 pages, tear-stained, folded twice. I read every line slowly, lips moving silently over words that shook. Dad. I was wrong. Marcus pushed me. I thought I was drowning. I hated how money made me small. I'm sorry. There were no excuses, just shame bleeding through every line. And at the bottom, in a softer scrawl, "If you can find it in your heart to see me, I'd like to come by. When you're ready." I set the pages down beside an old photograph. Emma at 10 years old, straddling the pink bike we built together one Texas summer, her smile wide and freckled. That was before the trust funds, before the company sale, before greed had carved its slow line through what we called family. I sat for a long time, staring at the 2 versions of her. The little girl who trusted me to steady her handlebars, and the woman who almost signed my life away. Both were mine. When Daniel called that afternoon, I dictated my reply word by word, slow but certain. Truth first, then visits. Counseling, proof, then coffee. "I will not be your wallet, but I want to be your father," he nodded as he typed. Firm, fair, final. Then he mentioned the draft settlement. If she returns any proceeds and signs a sworn affidavit, her trust distributions resume in 5 years, capped and supervised. "No shortcuts?" "Good," I said. "No more whispers in the dark." Later, I rolled myself out to the back porch, where the yard was alive with the smell of mesquite smoke from a neighbor's grill. The sun was sinking low over the fence, painting the grass in honey-colored light. If money is timber, then trust is the nails. You don't see nails when a house stands strong, but pull them, and the whole frame shudders. Emma had pulled too many, but I still had the blueprints. I could rebuild, beam by beam, if she met me halfway. The cicadas started up just before sunset, a low chorus that filled the silence. I whispered to the air, to the ghosts, to whoever was listening. "You didn't lose me, you gave me away." I let the words sit there, honest and unpolished, drifting into the evening like sawdust in light. Then I wheeled back inside and picked up my pencil again, plank by plank. I would start building something new, something that could hold. It's been 3 months since the courtroom gavel hit. And for the first time in my life, I wake up without a plan for war. Just breath. Slow, even, earned. The doctors call it a miracle, but I know better. It's just discipline, same as any build. You lay the foundation day by day. Physical therapy starts before sunrise. The clinic smells like rubbing alcohol and coffee, like every job site before a big pour. My legs tremble under their own weight. My palms burn from the parallel bars, but I keep going. The therapist, a young guy named Jeremy, grins each time I manage a few more steps. "That's a builder's walk," he says. "You don't quit halfway." He's right. Every nail I've ever driven, every beam I've raised, it all taught me how to push through pain without shouting about it. By February, the feeding tube is gone. My voice comes back rough as old sandpaper. The first word I manage isn't poetic, it's water. The second is thanks. Val visits once a week, off duty but still protective. "You sound stronger," she says, unpacking homemade soup from a thermos. "I am," I rasp, surprising both of us. "You built me back," she laughs, wiping at the corner of her eye. "You did the building, Mr. Hale. I just kept the lights on." Pastor Lewis drops by on Sundays with his worn Bible and his calm. We don't talk much about Emma. We talk about forgiveness instead, how it's not a door you open for someone else, but a window you finally open for yourself. Emma hasn't visited yet, but she writes. Small steps, updates from therapy, receipts showing she paid back Marcus's stolen funds. Photos of my grandkids drawing crayon hearts with the words, "Love you." Grandpa Rob, I keep them on the fridge like blueprints of a house not yet built but already designed. Each morning I take coffee out to the porch. The air smells like wood dust and dew, the kind of air you can only breathe when your conscience is clear. The yard is half finished from before the accident. Now I'm completing it slowly, brick by brick. Neighbors wave when they see me sanding boards again. "Good to see you upright, Rob," one calls. I smile back, voice still gravelly but steady. "Upright's a good start," I answer. Inside, the small bookcase in the den is done, pine and walnut smooth as forgiveness. On its top shelf sits the court's injunction framed in oak. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. Truth holds weight and justice needs structure. Sometimes at night, when the pain in my legs dulls, I practice speaking again. Simple phrases whispered to the dark. I'm still here. I did it. I'm enough. The sound doesn't echo. It settles. In March, Daniel visits with the final paperwork, the trust audit complete, the notary disbarred, Marcus awaiting trial. He asks if I want to attend. I shake my head. "I've seen enough courtrooms," I say. "Let justice do its own framing." He nods. "You're free to live now, Rob." I step outside after he leaves, hands resting on the porch rail I sanded that morning. The wood is warm beneath my fingers. The wind moves through the trees, gentle, honest. For the first time, I don't think about money, betrayal, or documents. I think about the smell of cedar, the sound of nails, the hum of life being built again. I whisper to the air, to Margaret, to Emma, maybe to myself. Everything broken can be rebuilt. If you're willing to hold the hammer steady, and somewhere between the heartbeat and the breeze, I know it's true.